Hi guys, Krishan Canuck here. Sorry, I was fiddling with my camera. I'm just going to do a quick video today showing the progress on the sweater, the baby sweater I was making. It probably would have been done by now if life hadn't happened. Yes, as you can see, I've been busy, so I haven't had too much time to crochet. I guess this video will also be kind of a birth story video. I did one for my previous daughter. I will link that down below in case anyone's interested. But yeah, so she was actually born Friday, May 3rd, and she was supposed to be due June 3rd. So it all started earlier that week on the Tuesday. I was having some bleeding that I was concerned about, so I went to the hospital. They couldn't really find any reason for the bleeding, and they just figured it was just the cervix getting ready as it does during the last month of pregnancy. But while I was there, they also had me on a monitor to monitor the baby's heart rate. And it was one of those ones where like the paper comes out and it draws the line with the heart rate. And every so often she would have a drop in her heart rate where the line it was drawing would actually break. And they were a little bit concerned about that, but not so concerned that they wouldn't send me home, so they sent me home. The next day the bleeding stopped, so everything was fine. Then the Thursday, I started having contractions, but they were just like a couple an hour, not very strong, so I figured, okay, Braxton Hicks. It's about the time when that can happen. But then by the evening, they were really regular, like they were getting to be about 10 minutes apart, and they were starting to get a bit stronger, and that's not what Braxton Hicks are. So I went back to the hospital, and they kept me there for a good like 5 or 6 hours on the monitor again. And even though I was having these regular contractions, I wasn't dilating, so they weren't concerned about the contractions, but her heart rate kept having those drops. So they wanted me to come back in the morning for a thorough ultrasound in the hospital's ultrasound department just to check on her. So they sent me back home. I came back on the Friday. I did the ultrasound, and they wanted me to go back to the OB department, or the labor and delivery department, where they were doing the monitoring, to monitor her again. So I did that, and they sat me in an area with a big comfortable chair, put the monitor on, and I only sat there for about maybe 5 minutes, where they told me to go to an obstetrical triage room. So I went to that room. I was only there for a few more minutes when they told me they got the results of the ultrasound, and it looked like, oh, and while I was there on the Thursday night, they also measured my belly, because when you're pregnant, the distance, like anytime during pregnancy, the distance from like the top of your uterus down to the top of your pelvic bone should correspond in centimeters to the number of weeks along you are. And they told me that I was measuring about 3 weeks behind, even though I was just at an OB appointment the week before, and he said I had textbook measurements. But anyways, so that was also why they wanted me to do the ultrasound, to check on her size and everything. So anyways, back to the triage room. They moved me to a triage room, and a few minutes later they came in, and they were still concerned with the drops in her heart rate, and the ultrasound had showed that she was losing, there's a loss of fluid around the baby. So that and the heart rate and everything happening, they said indicated that there was a problem with the function of the placenta, and they said it would be safer to get her out than to leave her in for the rest of the pregnancy. So they told me to move to a delivery room right away, and I was like, oh, because I was there alone, because my husband was at work, and my parents just dropped me off, because I thought it was just going to be an ultrasound appointment and another monitor and then go home. So I was moved to a delivery room right away. My husband had to come. They broke my water. They waited a couple hours. I did not dilate very much. I actually had a hard time finding and breaking my water because there was so little of it. And then so I wasn't dilating, so they gave me a drug called oxytocin to increase the contractions, which I think is the most ridiculous drug and should not be allowed to be used. The contractions I was getting from that drug were way stronger than any natural contraction I have ever had, and I gave birth to my first daughter naturally with no epidural, and it was not that painful. But anyways, like, this was so painful. They actually got the epidural in this time, and I could still feel the contractions through the epidural. But so after a couple hours of those contractions, I still had only made it to about 6 centimeters, and I was having a lot of pain. And they said, because as the baby comes out, it turns face up, and they said it looked like the baby was trying to turn but was getting stuck because of the lack of fluid, and they tried to kind of like pad her exit by flushing my uterus with more fluid, and it wasn't helping. Her getting kind of stuck plus the not dilating very much, I only made it to about 6 centimeters, and I was in a lot of pain. And so just the combination of all of that, they figured it was better and quicker for everybody to just go ahead and do a C-section, which I really didn't want. But by that point, I was in so much pain and just ready for everything to be done and ready for her to be out. So I was like, yeah, just do it. So I signed the papers. They did the C-section, and here we are. So that was May 3rd, and because she came out so small, she was 4 pounds, 2 ounces, and she had to spend, she spent about a week in the NICU. They didn't find any health problems or anything wrong with her heart, nothing. They didn't figure out really why her heart rate was doing that. It was probably the placenta. But she was fine when she came out. She was just really small and not eating enough and had to be on a feeding tube until she was eating enough on her own. And then when she was, they let her out because there was no other reason to keep her in there, even though she's still preemie. So she's still just over 4 pounds, but she's doing very well. I'm doing very well. I'm getting around fine. I'm not in any pain anymore. It's been about a week now. I just have a little discomfort when I stand up from sitting down, or when I bend over, or when I get in and out of bed. It just feels a little sore, but I'm not really in any pain. So, but I really don't like how my stomach feels right now. I definitely prefer vaginal delivery. So anyways, needless to say, after now having 2 babies in the NICU because they came out too small, and my age, I'm in my mid-30s. I'm definitely in the age range that is now considered high risk for pregnancy. And so, like, my history with small babies, that's another high risk and everything. And 2 is a good number, so I think we're going to stop. No more babies. Probably be smart to stop now. So, yeah. So that is my birth story. And that is why my baby sweater is still incomplete. Sorry, I'm holding my camera today, so I can't really hold the sweater very well, but I'll hold it up here. So here is the sweater. The body is complete, and I'm working on one of the sleeves right now. So I just have to finish both sleeves, and there's a little edging around the neckline that I have to do. And then that will be complete. So I will talk a little more in depth about the sweater when it is complete. So yeah, so I think that's all I have to talk about today, really. Yeah, so I should probably get back to the baby care. Yeah. So I guess that's it. So I hope everybody else has been having a good start to May. I certainly had an interesting one. And I hope everybody's been having a good week, and happy crafting.